Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the weekly shir Moshiach on the internet. Thanks to you and your participation, the shir has grown to be the largest shir in Moshiach in the entire world that's given in the English language. Tonight's shir is the 14th shir in Moshiach, which we know 14 is the same gematria as the word yad, which it says that biyad chazaka v'zroi netuya, Hashem took us out with a strong and outstretched arm. It's also very interesting that we are starting the Rambam, the Yad Chazaka, for the 31st time. We celebrated the 30th Siyum recently, and this gives us the koyach that the Yad Chazaka, that the Eibishter should take us out of Golus. Before I continue the shir, I want to make a special mention to one of our special listeners that are listening to the shir. I got a call Friday after Purim from one of my old Talmidim that's learning in the yeshiva, which they ever called Al Derech Kibbutz Lubavitch, the yeshiva in Brunois, France. And he went to a shliach in France for Purim, and he met over there a boy that is working very hard in his Yiddishkeit. He's coming from a home that lav davke shomer Torah mitzvahs, but he's working very hard to keep Yiddishkeit. And they had a discussion with this boy, and he said that one of the things that keeps him going is the weekly shir that he watches on the internet in Moshiach. So if you're listening again this week, keep it up, be strong, and together we will be in Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh, very, very soon. Tonight's shir is the third and final shir that we're going to give on the topic of the Aseres Hashvatim, the 10 tribes that got exiled from Klal Yisrael and are going to be brought back to the Yidden when Moshiach comes. And many of our listeners ask the question, when Moshiach comes, what's going to be? Are they going to continue having two separate kingdoms in Eretz Yisrael, which would be David HaMelech's kingdom and the 10 Shvatim? Or are they all going to unite under one banner, like it was in the time of David HaMelech? So the Navi tells us in Yecheskel, Perek Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Chav Daled, Va'avdi David Melech Aleim, V'roya Echad Yiyeh Lekulam. That my servant David, he's going to be the king on them, and there's going to be one leader, one shepherd for the entire Klal Yisrael. Which the Mefarshim explain that this is teaching us that when Moshiach comes, all the Yidden are going to be united under the banner of David HaMelech. Now one may ask, why is that so? Why shouldn't they stay separate under their own individual kingdoms? Or even a stronger question, if one king was the king of 10 and the other king was the only king of 2 Shvatim, maybe when Mashiach comes, the king of 10 should have the right to be the main king. So there's a famous mimer, which actually the Dibra Maschil of the mimer is this pasuk V'avdi David. It's in the Rebbe's Maimorim Sefer and Maimorim Melukit Chelek Beis, second volume, page 221, Reish Chaf Aleph. And in this mimer, the Rebbe addresses this question and others, and he gives a fascinating explanation. And he tells us that in order to understand the depth and the mystical Kabbalistic component of these two kingdoms, we have to really look at their names. The kingdom of David, which is represented by Shevet Yehuda, because David comes from Yehuda, and the kingdom of the Aseres HaShvatim, which originate from Shevet Yosef. Yosef was the forebearer, and he was the patriarch of Yerovam ben Nevat, and he will be the one to represent, when we're talking about the Shvatim, he represents the 10 Shvatim. But before we get to the two names, which is Yosef and Yehuda, we have to know a very fascinating conversation that once took place, and it's recorded in the Gemara. The Gemara Kiddushin, Daf Mem Amud Beis, brings down a discussion that there was once an argument. What is greater, Talmud Gadol or Maisa Gadol, which would mean learning Torah is greater or doing mitzvahs is greater. Which one of the two is greater? Everyone understands a Jew has to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, both. But which one carries more weight? And there are those opinions that said Talmud Gadol, that learning is greater, but Talmud Torah Keneget Kulan. Then other people said Maisa Hu Iker, that Maisa doing mitzvahs is greater. And this legal and Talmudic discussion went on and on and on. Until Nimnu V'Gamru, they came to the conclusion Shetalmud Gadol, that learning is greater. Why? Shetalmud maybe lidei Maisa. You cannot do any mitzvahs if you don't know the halachas, if you don't know what's behind it. You may do it wrong. You may do not only wrong, you may do contrary to the entire mitzvah. So being that in order to do a mitzvah, you have to learn anyways. So Talmud Gadol, shemayvi l'dei Maisa, that brings to Maisa. That is the discussion. So we have these two components. We have Maisa, doing, and we have learning, Talmud. Now let's take that back to the two names, Yehuda and Yosef. Yosef means adding. Yosef Hashem li ben acher. That was the tefillah that Rachel Imenu said, that Hashem should add for me another son. By definition, the mind is an adding machine. Constantly wants to know new knowledge, to take a step further and more in depth. A mind that's not used rusts and disappears. Mind, by definition, the seichel is always evolving and learning more and more and more. By definition, you always have to grow. The mind has to be nurtured, has to grow, grow, grow. So when you're talking about adding, Yosef, you have to think of seichel, Talmud, learning in depth, deeper, another question, another answer, another proof, another discussion, another analytical comparison. This is all part of learning, all part of growing in your knowledge and your learning of Torah. Then you have Yehuda, which Yehuda means literally. Why was he called Yehuda? Like Leah Imenu said, Hapam oides Hashem, I'm going to thank Hashem, or the word hoida also means I'm going to admit, I'm going to give myself over to a higher authority. And that's brought out in action. Action is a very, very submissive thing. You tell me what to do and I do it. I'm giving myself over to your will. Also, it's very not enjoyable to do things. It's so much better to discuss them, analyze it, figure it out. When it comes to actually doing it, that's when, put that for the simple people. We, the people that understand, you don't have to sit and actually do it. We'll figure out and let the simple people do the little dirty work. So doing action means there's a certain level of bittul, a certain level of giving yourself over, which that's represented by the word hoidah, which means I'm giving myself up. I'm admitting to a higher authority and submitting myself to a higher authority. So when we think about this discussion in the Gemara, what is greater, Talmud, learning, or Maisa, action, we really have to think on a more Kabbalistic term about which is greater, Yosef or Yehuda. Now the Gemara comes to a conclusion. And the Gemara says that the learning is greater. That's why in the time of Galus, in our times, under whose kingship were there more Shvatim? Which one was greater? Numbers was the kingdom and the dynasty of Yosef, the 10 Shvatim. However, it's very fascinating, because on that Gemara, the Kabbalah tells us, and Alter Rebbe explains, but when Moshiach comes, Maisa Gadol. When Moshiach comes, we're going to be focusing on Maisa. Because when Moshiach comes, we're going to see the depth of what is accomplished through a physical mitzvah. How the Dira B'Tachtonim, Hashem's dwelling place, was done by Maisa mitzvahs. The simple bittul is going to be expressed in things that everyone laughed at. Even Maso Aboinim Hoysel Reish Pino, which means that the things that everyone laughed at, bittul, simplicity, Erenskite, serving the Eibishter B'Tmimus, these things are going to, now everyone laughs, he's just a simple person, he's doing a simple mitzvah. When Mashiach comes, that's going to be the highlight, the gems. That's why if you look in the Hayoim Yoim of Hey Tevis, It says clearly that Melech HaMoshiach is going to reveal the Maila of Ernstkeit and Tmimus. You may ask, but what about the logic that the Gemara says? The Talmud Gadol Shemevi Lidei Maisa, you're going to have to learn in order to know. So first of all, there are opinions that say, fine, you'll learn once, but you don't have to learn it again because you're not going to forget anything. But then there's a deeper explanation. The Rebbe explains in the Kutesichis Chelek Chafei. There's the big difference between the way Torah and mitzvahs interact with the person now and the way it is when Moshiach comes. If I have to go to school or class or open up a book to know what to do and what not to do, that means that the thing that I'm doing is not part of my instinct. It's not part of my being. No one teaches a kid how to breathe. No one teaches you to keep your hands away from fire. You don't go to school for that. On the contrary, certain people go to school and start playing with fire. You go to school to stay. You don't need school for such natural instincts. The feeling to live, you don't need to go to school for. You go to school to learn an outside subject. You want to eventually internalize it, but it's naturally outside of you. So you have to learn it. You have to go a place to get it. Nowadays, unfortunately, there are existence, and the existence of Torah and mitzvahs are not instinct. You don't wake up and if there's an Avera, you just jump away and stay away from. No, you have to learn right and wrong. It's not part of our existence. It's not part of who we are. When Mashiach comes, you're not going to have to be taught right and wrong. Alikus, like the Rambam finishes off, Umala Aretz Deas Hashem Kamayim Layom Mechasim is going to be so part of the fabric, so part of the nature of the world, that it will be part of the instinct of creation. Like the Medrash says, that if someone's going to want to pull off a fruit from a tree on Shabbos, it's going to scream at him, it's Usr, stay away, it's Shabbos. In other words, the world will reach a level of perfection that the world itself will scream out that we have to keep Torah mitzvahs. In such a world, you don't have to learn to know what to do. So the whole reasoning of Talmud Gadol Shemevi Lidei Maisa does not apply. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be Maisa Gadol. We're going to see the advantage of the mitzvahs Maisias, the simple Ernstkeit, Tmimuskait, which was done the whole time. This is going to be the gem in the crown. And that's why when Mashiach comes, the kingship is going to return to David in its fullest way. Because David is called David Avdi. David, my servant. David, the bittul one. David that served the Eibishter in a very, very bittul way. This is Moshiach. It says about Moshiach that even though he's going to be a great Talmudic scholar, he's going to be Betachlis Ho'anova, the ultimate humble one. The Gemara calls him Ani V'roichev ala chamor, poor person that's riding a donkey, which means that he's a person with great humility. This is the characteristics of Moshiach. And this is when Moshiach comes. It says, V'David Avdi, Nosi Lahem La'olam. The 10 Shvatim are going to be united. The Torah is going to be part of the Maisa. Maisa Gadol. We're going to see the great advantage of mitzvahs. And that's why, this doesn't say in the Maimer, but this is quite obvious. As we get closer to Mashiach, on one hand, the Rebbe teaches us the deepest Maimorim, the deepest Siches. But you realize how the focus turned into actions. You don't find Mivtzoyim campaigns by the other Rabbeim. The closer we got to Mashiach, the more action-oriented we became. Do a mitzvah maises, put a mezuzah, put on tefillin, light Shabbos candles, taras mishpacha, kashrus, tzedakah, chinuch, avas yisrael. All these inyanim which are connected to kashrus, all these inyanim connected to physical actions. Stop a yid, get him to do a mitzvah, shekel lulav, light a menorah, eat shmura matzah. Very, Lubavitch became very action-oriented. Well, this is a preparation for the time of Mashiach, which is going to be Maisa Gadol. We're going to see the Maila of action. So the Rebbe is bringing the Maila of action of Maisa, of actually building Hashem's palace in this physical world. Hashem's palace, which is going to be this beautiful place in Olam Hazeh, in this physical world. And that's why when Moshiach comes, it will be V'David Avdi Nasi Lahem La'olam. There's going to be one king who's going to be ruling the entire Klal Yisrael. Now, some of you may say that this is a contradiction to a open Gemara. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Daf Tzaddik Ches Amud Beis, that we have a contradiction in the two psukim. One pasuk says that V'David Avdi Nasi Lahem La'olam, there'll be one David, and another pasuk says that they're going to serve the Eibishter and the David which I am going to set up for them. Asher Akim Lahem, which means that there's going to be a new David. So is there an old David? Is there a new king, an old king? And the Gemara says that there's going to be going Kesar or Palgi Kesar, like the Caesar, like the king, and a half a king, which literally means like an assistant. It seems from this Gemara that Moshiach is going to have this prime minister, this assistant. Now, why would Moshiach need an assistant? Why does he need a second in command? What is that for? So there's a lot of discussion in the commentaries. But in L'Kutei Sichos Chelik Lamed Hey Parshas Vayigash, the Rebbe explains this in a very, very fascinating manner. And he says, of course, Moshiach doesn't need an assistant. But Moshiach himself is going to have two components. There's the Moshiach as the king, which means he's going to be leading the Klal Yisrael against the Goyim to get back the 10 lands, to build the Beis HaMikdash. He's going to be the one that's going to be the leader of Klal Yisrael, the king of Klal Yisrael. Most times, the king is not the spiritual teacher as well. But regarding Moshiach, it says, Yilamet kol ha'am v'yoyra oisam derech Hashem v'yavoyu kol ha'goyim l'shoimoy. That Moshiach is going to be a teacher of Klal Yisrael as well. In addition to being a melech, he's also going to be a rav, a teacher. So the Rebbe says that these two components are what the Gemara is talking about, that there's going to be the king and his assistant. There's going to be Moshiach, his main chidush, his main job as Melech HaMoshiach, to connect Yidden with the Eibishter. Then he's going to have, so to speak, another job. The fact that he's going to teach Klal Yisrael Torah. He's going to be the one to teach Klal Yisrael. This is what the Gemara means when it says Palgi Keser, a half of a king. Now some of you may wonder, why would we refer to Melech HaMashiach with the Goyshe title Caesar, Caesar? Very interesting thing. You know why Caesar was called Caesar? You have to come to my shir to find out. Everyone knows what a Caesarean is. It's not a natural birth. Why is it called Caesarean? Because Caesar was born through a Caesarean. So the Caesarean operation is named after Caesar. So why do we care to call Moshiach with that name? Our point is that Melech HaMashiach is not a natural. Mashiach is going to be a chidush. He's not a natural, what we're used to, a phenomenon, something totally different. He's going to be in the world, but there's going to be a tremendous... The way Mashiach is going to lead Klal Yisrael is going to be in a way that was never done before. The only inkling, the only way you can understand it, if you look at the Rebbe, you realize how the malchus of the Rebbe and the leadership of the Rebbe is so different and on such a bigger scale than any time before. And going back to the first thing, when we connect to the Rebbe, and the 14th Shir we're machlet to join right away the Yad HaChazaka, the learning of the Mishnah Torah, learning the Rambam, whether it's 3 parakim a day or 1 parak a day or Sefer HaMitzvahs for women and children, we will connect with the Rebbe and we'll be zoicher right away to the Izgalos. Now, don't hang up right here. Good news for you. Anyone that wants to subscribe to our weekly email, we just started a new series coming out this week, the first installment of our new series. Our new series is called Who's Who in the Time of Mashiach. The first article is about Moshiach ben Yosef. If you want it or you want to share with your friends, sign them up to MoshiachWeekly@gmail.com. We're looking to reach 7,700 in honor of Yud Aleph Nisan subscribers. We're holding right now 5,900 weekly subscribed people, and Mir Tashem, with your help, we will reach our goal of 7,700 people learning in Yonagul Mashiach every single week. Thank you very much. Looking forward to see you, your friends, family, neighbors, all together. Yerushalayim Mir HaKodesh, third Beis Hamikdash, b'mheira v'yameinu.